Before ever beginning the Core Complete program, fitness testing gives us a snapshot of the client's current habits, the endurance that they currently possess, and the level of strength or dysfunction currently exhibited by the way they perform these exercises. All right. It also helps us to screen out potential sources of pain. And again, what we'll say to the client is if any of these exercises performs pain, we know that these are things that we want to forego or modify in some way. While some clients may test into level 2 or 3, other clients will spend several months in level 1 just learning these basic skills necessary to progress. And what we do is with this program, we'll perform these fitness tests at the beginning and end of at each 4-week cycle to give us kind of once again an idea of how the client has progressed, what still might be going wrong, and what modifications we have to make to their program. With that said, we test both what we call core strength, or the ability to move the body or kind of flex the torso, and core stability, the ability to resist movement. I'm going to give you an example of what each of those are. So for our first test, we have a simple standard plank hold here. And what I'm going to ask the client to do is just get their back flat like a table, raise up into a plank, and hold in this position. All right, when I'm holding here, what I'm trying to do is resist the pull of gravity. All right, gravity is trying to pull me into extension, causing me to arch my back. All right, this can be classified as kind of a resistance of movement exercise, because to maintain this position, I have to contract my abs and hold flat like a table. All right, when the client's holding in this position, I'm going to ask them to hold for up to 90 seconds. All right, I'm going to ask them, where are you feeling this? Whether they're feeling it in their low back, their stomach, or somewhere else. And as well, I'm going to be watching their form. All right, we're going to time the amount of time it takes to start to kind of deviate from this flat back posture. We'll see the client shaking. They'll start to arch, and that's kind of where they want to stop. And whether they get 30, 60, 90 seconds, whatever it may be, we've set standards for each level in order to test it. All right, now for our side plank, for our next test, we have what is called a side plank. All right, what this is resistance to what we call lateral flexion of the torso rotation. So what I'm going to do is just raise up into the side plank position. Once again, I'm holding on my side here. I'm trying not to let gravity pull me down or rotate me under. Okay, again, I'm holding for up to 90 seconds. I'm just trying to see how long I can hold it here. Okay, and then I'm going to compare that to the other side. Rest for a minute, make sure that your shoulder gets a little bit of rest. And then we're going to compare that from side to side. And again, if either side causes pain, or there might be sort of an endurance deficit between one side or the other, we know that we need to make certain modifications, maybe give a little bit more volume to either side. All right, now by the same token, we're also going to test 2 key core strength exercises we incorporate in our program. All right, the first exercise that we're going to test is called a straight leg sit-up, and this really is a screen for all flexion-based movements. When we say flexion, we just mean flexing the torso, anything that involves a sit-up like that, because we're actually moving. Okay, so with that said, what I'm going to ask the client to do is straighten their legs out, raise their hands up here, and perform what's called a straight leg sit-up. So I'm just going to sit straight up, pause at the top, and come back down. Now, a sure sign that there's compensation that exists, or the client is kind of getting movement from their spine versus their core, the muscles around their abs, is bouncing off the floor. So we'll often see things like this, where they'll be able to sit up, but they'll bounce off the floor. That is a major compensation, and that's something we want to train to avoid. So what we're going to cue the client to do in this situation, press their back into the ground, try that again, and see if that makes a difference. And we're actually going to count the number of proper straight leg sit-ups they can do. This is a very hard move, so we can really gauge how strong they are in this capacity by doing this. All right, the goal would be with this to add more as we go along. Okay, so with that said, our last test is what is called a leg lowering test. All right, so we kind of tested sit-up capability. Another staple in our program for core strength is leg lifting activities, where we're doing things like tapping the floor and lowering. All right, and with that said, our test is what is called a double leg lower. So I'm going to place my feet together, legs are straight. I'm going to press my back into the ground and keep my abs tight. The goal here is to keep the back pressed against the ground, and I'm just going to lower slowly. All right, I'm going to stop at the point to where I feel my back start to arch. That's right about here for me. And I'm going to come back. We can cue the client to repeat that up to 3 times, but the idea is to kind of see where the hip flexors and the spine starts to take over from the lower abs. All right, and with that, we can get an idea of how strong the client will be off the floor. All right, now if they stop up here, we know that this is an area of focus. This is one thing that we want to work on. All right, if they're all the way down here, then we know that this is something that they might be able to test to a higher level. But with that said, again, test at the beginning, end of each phase, kind of give us an idea, a snapshot of where the client currently is, and how we progress them to the next level.